Hi, today I'm here with Dave Ho from Google Cloud Security to talk about all things threat intelligence and the outcome of the latest M-Trends report from Mandiant. So Dave, talk to me about some of the high-level findings or the top findings from the report and some of the threat intelligence and the landscape that you're seeing.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of metrics that we use in M-Trends, I think the 5 key things that people look at are dwell time, which is really the time that organizations take to detect an incident. Second thing is infections vector, which is really how is the adversary getting into the organization. Number 3 is around notifications, where they were told they were breached or they actually found out themselves. Ransomware, and that's something we've been measuring for a number of years now because it's still the number one motivation for doing all the things that people are doing. And yeah, lastly, it's really around the motivations about, is it for money, is it for espionage, that sort of thing.
And obviously dwell time over the past couple of years has been coming down. So in terms of what that looks like, where we see maybe the future going, could you share some highlights on that?
Yeah, I think last year we saw a drop in dwell time from 16 days to 10 days. And what that tells us is that most organizations are getting better at detecting threats in their environment. So that's a really good thing. The reason it's 10 days is that most ransomware gangs would actually try to, get to lock systems up very quickly. And that's the other reason we're seeing that dwell time reduced from 16 to 10 days. So it's good news in the sense that people are detecting faster. But the reason they're detecting much faster is that ransomware actors that are financially motivated are, locking up systems a lot quicker.
Now, that makes sense. And there's been a big shift in the types of attacks, right? So if we look back a few years ago, phishing was very big and targeting individuals with email phishing campaigns, etc. But now moving more towards vulnerabilities, that's a big shift. And if you look at some of the incidents from last year, vulnerabilities have been a key part of that, right?
Yeah. So looking at the incidents from last year, there's a slight shift away from phishing, which was really the primary way threat actors would get into people's environments, now towards vulnerabilities. I think the reason why that is that I think most companies are getting better at, most educating their users around what phishing email looks like, what a spam email looks like, and they have technology that kind of prevents, the emails even getting to the end user. Threat actors now go, well, actually, it's harder to get into in that way. So let's change our direction and look at vulnerabilities, which is really, where software has built-in vulnerabilities, and they're going after that as an entry point, which is a slight shift. Phishing is still good, but vulnerabilities is getting, the number one vector. And really, it's difficult because patching systems is what you really need to do. We all know it's really difficult, but it's still something that you need to do in order to protect yourselves.
So in essence, patching and attack surface management is really important.
Really, really important, yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose what we've also seen is, going back to dwell time, a lot of times we hear from our customers that they're being told about vulnerabilities and EVEs by their partners and by their customers. Mm-hmm. And we also hear that ransomware is ever increasing. Can you talk us through a bit of that?
Yeah, I think there's some good news and still some bad news there. The good news is that I think most organizations, last year, 54% of the breaches were detected by the end user themselves, the customer, which is good. But the bad news is, for ransomware, 70% of the time they get notified is actually by an external party, maybe the NCSC in the UK. Still work to be done there, but it's getting better.
Yeah, and so that also leads on to zero day, right? We've seen a significant increase in the number of zero-day attacks out there. Do you see that continuing to rise, or?
We do. We have seen a massive increase in use of 0 days, especially by nation states. Unfortunately, those exploits used by nation states end up with other threat actors who are more financially motivated. So, yeah, I mean, it's growing, and it'll get worse and worse, I think, over time. But we have seen a massive increase in 0 days, and protecting yourself from that is really, really the key thing.
And so, I mean, given all of this information, some of it positive, some of it negative, how would you suggest that organisations work with partners like Outspoken CTS and also Google to overcome some of those challenges and address the issues?
Yeah, I think in terms of working with, looking at the M-Trends report, digesting what that's going on in terms of dwell time, infection factors, and being able to, pivot your investments, to ensure that you're focused on the big things rather than everything. I don't think, in this economic climate, you can't spend money on everything, but you've got to focus on what you'll get most bang to the buck. So simple things like patching that I think everybody's been talking about for 20 odd years, patching is still very important. If you look at the new attack vector, I think, continuously improving your detection response capability is another big area that you should focus on.
Amazing. Well, yeah, Dave, thank you for your time. That's been really insightful, and, the information you've given has been fascinating. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.